Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Levi McCurdy, and this is episode 1 of the Tone Tailors Podcast. It's time, it's here, it's now. JP finally gave me permission to start the Tone Tailors Podcast, and I can't think of a better way to kick off episode 1 than with a solid hour-long conversation with our friend Tuck Ryan. You can catch him on social media and all streaming platforms at Tuck Ryan Music. His band, The Quiet Riders, on social media and streaming platforms as well. I really had a great time talking to this man about his music, how AI affects it, streaming services, intimate settings, house parties versus big shows, and just really getting the ultimate vibe of him as an artist and a musician, and just really learning what we can expect from him and his band and just upcoming projects that he's got right around the corner as he makes his way from Philadelphia back to the Lancaster music scene just in the coming weeks. So by the time you're probably listening to this episode, we now have our good friend Tuck Ryan back here in Lancaster. So be on the lookout for shows, announcements, and new music coming soon. And while you're at it, please enjoy this conversation with my new friend, Tuck Ryan. Dude, man, so thank you, first and foremost, thank you so much for doing this. It's our first episode, our first go at this.
Right
so
on.
we're learning. I've been trying to get JP to do this Tone Tailors podcast for years now, what it seems like. So we're finally here, we're finally doing it, and to have you as our first honorary guest, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it. And I can't wait, dude. Just getting to know what I can about you from online and your music and just everything in general. I'm so excited for this conversation. Just to kick off the show. I mean, we can jump right into it, man. So we've got Tuck Ryan, ladies and gentlemen, and he is here, and he is. Man, so take me back to like that 2-year-old you strumming a guitar before you could even walk or tie your shoes. Like, what do you remember about your first moment that music really grabbed you? And did you know right then that like it would define your life?
Sure. So it's interesting. I didn't end up playing an instrument actually until I was in high school, but from the time that I could crawl and could walk, my parents had an amazing record collection.
Okay.
And those are my earliest memories of music, is pulling out these old, musty smelling vinyl records and just kind of combing over them and loving the images and trying to read who the artists were and figuring that stuff out. And I remember instantaneously having a connection to music when I was a kid. I was always fascinated with it. Every time I watched a movie, I was more concerned about the music that was in the movie than I was what was even going on the screen half the time.
What were some of those records? Like, who?
Well, the one that I remember, I think probably my first memory of really in a visual sense was Europe 72 by the Grateful Dead.
Okay.
That foot kind of sticking out across the globe with the ice cream cone. That's one that I really distinctly remember. Carole King's Tapestry was another one that I distinctly remember. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young Greatest Hits.
Wow.
The one that's the white cover that Joni Mitchell painted. What are some other ones?
It's fascinating what our parents' music interest translate then over to us. Some obscure thing. My dad went back and forth between 50 Cent, Eminem, and then Godsmack.
Yeah.
And so it was just like this completely diverse range of like rap and then
Totally.
whatever version of rock you want to put Godsmack under. And it's just and it's still like I still listen to that album like just yesterday, and it's like it's that instilled kind of. And like, just the reason, like my dad played Eminem and my mom hated it and it was part of the divorce, like the whole thing. And so, we always love to bring up Eminem to mom, till this day. The only physical CD disc that I still own is the Marshall Mathers Project, and it is in my car. And if I don't have radio or my phone, no signal, I just hit play and it's like, hi, my name is what? And it's just, it's there. And
I know exactly what you mean.
The record, we didn't, unfortunately, we never had records in the house. I think we had like an entertainment system that played it, but they didn't keep records. We were always a CD house. So it was, I never got to really experience that until I was a little bit older, but never really truly appreciated the vinyl era. I know my friend Paul is just, every night he goes into his studio, puts a vinyl on, and like that's just his jam. So go ahead.
No, because I think that something about that experience that had a big impact on me was I wasn't aware or concerned with fidelity as a 5-year-old child. You know what I mean?
Right.
But there was something to this idea of listening to whatever the artist created for you in its entirety that always really stuck with me. I feel like I've been very bad in this digital age at releasing singles.
Right.
I don't like singles. I like albums. I like something where we're on a journey and we move through this thing and there's a high point and there's a low point and it kind of flows. And that was something that I feel like more than anything. And also I hate that you don't know who plays on records anymore. Nobody like lists their credits anywhere. I mean, Tidal and some streaming services are getting better at like including that kind of thing so that you can see it. But I think that was always a love of the vinyl to me too. Was just like the physical art, like holding this piece of art that's there.
You can put it on the wall, put it on the shelf. Yeah.
But just kind of, throwing it on, listening to side one, flipping it over and listening to side two. And it's like, it's just easy to like get a record now and you're like, oh, I don't really like this song. I just skip it. And then sometimes I always find that those songs come back around, I listen to them again later on and I'm like, oh man, it's actually a great song. I shouldn't have skipped over this. And if I was listening to it on vinyl, I probably wouldn't, because I wouldn't take the time and effort to go over there and pick up the style and, move it over a song.
Right.
I feel like that had a large impact on how I have viewed music as I've created it, just in the perspective of wanting there to be a story and an arc. Yeah. And a flow of things.
Well, and it's interesting. So you said a couple of things there, which is that we live in this singles day of age era. And I'm always I think I'm always on the stance of the opposite side of you, in the sense that we have all of these artists and musicians who are, working on the full album, but then that's just 2 years of them talking about it and not putting it out. When I'm like, yo, you should be making a single every day, make a song a day and just upload, because no one's going to hear your album that never gets released. But I mean, hey, if you have the motivation and drive as much as like you do, you can get it done. But yeah, it's certainly interesting to see where we've come. And I always say this, and I think it pertains to music and especially how we listen to it as well, that like our generation has experienced life before, during, and what will most likely be after the internet. And same with music and physicality, and from vinyl to tapes to CDs to the aux cord to now just streaming with Bluetooth 9 times out of 10. Yeah. We've all kind of transformed along with it, and it's been a crazy ride. So totally. So talk to me about I think sometime around the year of 2017, Afternoon in the Poconos, clouds parted just long enough for the perfect shot. Was this the moment that launched your music career? And how did this kind of like lightning in a bottle moment shape your growth as an artist?
So at that point, I had been, to give the short history would be that when I was about 15, I started playing in this band, Secondhand Suits. It was kind of more like jazz, Americana, rock and roll type stuff. And I was in that with Jordan Rast and Peter Rice and Evan Graver, and our friend Don Billett also played drums at one point in that group. But that was kind of my big introduction, the first big band I was a part of. And I was in that, 2010 to 2014. And then I went off to school in Scotland for a semester, and, styles were kind of naturally growing different ways.
You went to Scotland?
I studied in Scotland. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And when I was over there, it was kind of like a natural, we were kind of like, we're putting this on hiatus. We've done this for a number of years. People wanted to explore other things.
Yeah.
So when I came back from there, I formed this band, Limbo Jimbo, with my current still bandmate, Matt Hostetter. And we also have
we know Matt. We love Matt. Shout out to Matt. Yes,
Shout out to Matt.
Of course. Yes.
So that was kind of and our friend Tim White and Nick Adams. And that band kind of, from about 2014 to 2017, 16, kind of morphed into the Tuck Ryan band. And we kind of started moving away from covers and kind of just like, I don't want to say specifically the kind of more jammy stuff, but into like a little bit more songwriter structured
Finding
stuff.
Your own voice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think at that point I had written a number of songs that I knew I wanted to kind of put out on this kind of first record, the Warmest Blue record. And I was on this trip to the Poconos with my brother and my dad. My brother Michael is a professional photographer, which is always great.
Yeah,
always great to have one of those around.
Yep.
But yeah, we had just taken this long walk together, kind of through the rain and whatever. We were just getting back to the property, and the sun kind of peeked out, and he was like, "You should go grab your guitar, because this is kind of golden light, perfect moment. We should get this picture." Yeah. And I remember him being like, this would make a good album cover, which we didn't end up using in the end, but it definitely was. Should have. I remember kind of in that moment, and yeah we should have, right? Maybe honestly, well, that's a good point. That record, Warmest Blue, I took off of streaming services. Okay. Just because I kind of felt like I was going in a different direction musically, and I didn't really want that to be the landing thing that people saw when they first came to my page. Yeah. But a number of the songs on those records are still important to me. Some of them maybe not as much anymore. But I've often toyed with kind of doing my Taylor's version of of that record, and kind of
which I have my own. But we can go down that rabbit hole if you want, because now especially now it's like, did she scam us? What was the point?
I agree.
Now it seems a little messed up, doesn't it?
It does, and I should also clarify that. That I use that term lightly, because I didn't like the fact that I understood why she did what she did, but to me, my take is, hey, you're 10 or 12 years older. The song should feel and sound different and evolve with that. Of course, so that's kind of where I'd want to re-record them.
Swifties all the way.
I'd want to re-record them, as I feel about them today, and they might sound kind of the same, but I think that there would be different stylistic choices.
More mature, more different, right? Yeah.
But I think that photo is the album cover. If that re-recording ever gets released,
either bring it back or go retake it, maybe, so that like you kind of have that more maturity now in the album cover as well as the song. Totally. And so, is it do you know that you're an official musician for life when you've had like 8 different bands in the span of like 12 different years? Like, is it, I feel like every musician we talk to is like, oh, well, I had this band, then I started this band, then it was this band, then this became Tuck Ryan, and now it's the, and it's one of those very interesting, it's the same kind of thing for me. I'm not a musician per se, but like, in the entertainment space, I'll go from being a magician for 8 years, then a YouTuber, to now a podcaster, to a wedding DJ currently. So it's like, it's the same thing, but just different forms of entertainment. So, I mean, I guess I do the same thing too, but I just find it fascinating that most musicians that you talk to just have a resume of at least like 12 different bands or projects or just things that they are a part of or currently or on hiatus, and just as relationships and people come and grow. It's a very interesting just a landscape. Like, I mean, and just like looking at your resume, which is kind of a perfect segue into my next question about how every city kind of brings like its own personalities, from Lancaster's like easygoing pace, Philadelphia's hustle, New Orleans soul. You even mentioned Scotland, which I'm sure just, I mean, bagpipes everywhere when it comes to music. So when you walk into a session, what's your playbook for injecting your unique style into their like totally different creative environments versus somewhere like New Orleans to Scotland to Lancaster City?
Totally. I mean, I think that I write songs that are, I hope, as honest a reflection of myself as they can be.
Yeah.
And I think that I have a pretty decent knack for picking the people, congregating the people that I know are going to do the most justice to that. And that is really much more a testament to the incredible musicians that I get to work with and play with, more so than it is to my ability to pick them. But I think that, everyone, as you said, everyone kind of has a different sound and a different feel. And it's like, for example, like the New Orleans thing is like, I took this batch of definitely more songwriter kind of songs that had been kind of sitting on the shelf for a little while. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with them. I got kind of inspired in spite of that and wrote some more songs that I felt like were all part of the same universe.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't really want the Philly guys per se to play them. And I don't really know that the Quiet Riders are quite the right fit for it either.
Right.
And I was like, what if I took these folkier songs and gave them to people that have this really, I think New Orleans has such a unique blend of what is country and what is funky, and there's really no difference between the two of them,
right?
Especially there. And so I was so lucky to have just some unbelievable musicians and friends. My friend Tucker Godbold playing bass, Rob Florence on drums, Carter Wilkinson playing electric guitar. My friend AJ Sugar from Philly actually did come down and he plays some electric guitar on that record as well. And then my mentor Nigel Hall playing keyboards. And that was just a really different experience for me in terms of, and I should, of course, Mac Major, the guy who engineered the entire project and is mixing it, who is just a phenomenal guy, an amazing engineer. We just worked in this beautiful room, Maroney Studios, and we were just cutting live.
Yeah.
I just remember walking in and being like, okay, we did a little rehearsal. The band kind of knows what's going on. And everybody put their headphones on. And I heard my buddy Rob just hit the snare, and it already sounded like perfect. It was the record. I remember we kind of looked at each other. I was in an isolation booth with my guitar and the rest of the band was in the big room. And I remember we kind of looked at each other and we were like, okay, we're going to go for blood today because everything just feels so good. And so we recorded, I think it was 6 or 7 songs over 2 days. And we had one other day of overdubs, and that's really all the work we've put into it. And it's basically done.
That's great.
It hasn't even been mixed yet. And I would be like, okay, yeah, fine, just put it out.
Right.
Like it feels so natural because everybody played exactly the way they were supposed to.
It's different energy.
And we had a perfect, a perfect engineer that was capturing it all. So I don't know. I think I'm too much of a chameleon and I like too many different things. I can never fully commit one way or the other. And so I think that's where I find so much joy in life from, having the opportunity to play with these different groups. And it definitely is always a different sound. The Philly thing is a lot more R&B kind of soul forward. The Quiet Riders thing is much more Americana jam band forward. The New Orleans thing is some kind of weird synthesis of the two of those sounds. But I mean, again, it's really just chalked up to being so lucky to play with so many amazingly talented musicians that I have so much respect for and trust in. And then they give that back to me, and it's like that's the only way that it works.
So cool. Yeah, no, I mean, in that, yeah, right. It's always a relief when you're with people who know what they're doing and just what the end goal is, and that they're just there to get to that end goal. And when you have that same level of mentality across the board with all of the band members or team member, whatever that may be,
Yeah.
it's just one cohesive sound, and it creates magic every time. So you jumped ship, you went from Philly and circled back to Lancaster.
Mm-hmm.
Was there an expectation of the Lancaster music scene when you got here? And has it measured up to that vision? Has it changed since landing back? What's going on in Lancaster?
Well, so I have 11 days left in Philly. So the move the move back to Lancaster
hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
But it will be happening. So we move out of here at the end of this month, 11 days, which is that's a whole nother story. It's bittersweet, but it's really great.
Yeah.
And we're really looking forward to it. But we don't move back into our place until September in Lancaster. Okay. My wife and I own a home there. And we're just going to be staying with some friends and family that live in Chesapeake, Maryland, for the next few months, just kind of decompressing, which is going to be really, really great before the transition back. But I think I can still answer the question in this.
Yeah, well, I mean, and so, but did you, was the Tellus 360 recording, did that happen?
It did, yeah, that did happen.
Oh, we've been back and forth between Lancaster and Philly, of course.
Totally.
So, okay, totally. Yeah. So, I mean, has it, maybe just how has it changed, or what have you seen, or what are we going to bring? What are you bringing from Philly back to Lancaster? How can we help incorporate that into what are we doing? You know what I mean?
I think that when I left Lancaster, it was out of a desire to learn and be a deeper and better musician in the styles, and from influences that really were near and dear to me, which definitely leaned more, rhythm and blues and soul music forward. And I just think, Philly, Sound of Philadelphia, TSOP, MFSB. I mean, there's just, this is one of the most culturally significant musical cities in the world, in my opinion. And I was just so incredibly lucky to fall in with so many people here. And I did that because I didn't really feel like that was happening in Lancaster. I didn't really feel like I could learn that in Lancaster. I think we have a great scene for kind of like the singer-songwriter thing. And I think, even like a kind of like a harder rock or like punk scene, I think like has pretty strong roots in Lancaster. But I didn't really feel like there was this like soul music scene. And so I felt like this was a place where I could come and I could like study at the feet of people better than me and like, try to learn and absorb as much as I could. And funnily enough, I think the thing that once scared me about feeling like there wasn't anyone else in that scene is like coming back. I guess the feeling is, well, now I just get to make it what I want. You know what I mean? Right. It's like, if this thing doesn't exist, or not doesn't exist, but, is less prevalent or less prominent, I have an ability to help kind of shepherd in the things that I want to do. And, I'm really excited for the chance to do that. I can't say too much on it yet as I'm finalizing some details, but there are plans in place I have plans in place to kick off a weekly residency once I move back. That will be a mixture of the Quiet Riders band playing with me a few times a month and the Philadelphia musicians coming into town and playing. So I'm really excited. That's all kind of,
you're bringing us the artists from Philly. Okay. Yeah.
It's all in the process of getting finalized, but that's a big thing is that weekly residency.
Okay.
Before COVID happened, my wife and I were running a lot of house concerts out of our house. That will definitely be something that we will be returning to form on. for me personally,
dude, and that's like the format. That's the vibe
that's the
now.
format.
I mean, here's doing their like DJ nights
Yep.
that they're killing it just with
Yep.
like 50 people, whatever,
Totally.
small thing. And it's like, I think I don't know if it is a TikTok rumor or not, but I think like the All American Rejects are just performing in people's backyards right now. So like this non-traditional form of bringing music and entertainment to people is kind of this. It's coming. It's here. It's back because we can be face to face again. We could be crammed into a house. We can kind of have that party vibe because we've missed it for so long. And I think especially with the Lancaster music scene kind of transforming along with that, that's the move for sure.
And I think the way I'd phrase it is I'd almost say that it's getting back to the most traditional way to experience music, in my opinion, is that for me, whether it's like a 50-person, whether it's the Blue Note in New York City, or whether it's, I can think of, when Josh Gibble was running Live from the Cellar, before West Art got started, or Tim and Karen Lehman ran the incredible Chestnut Street House Concert Series for years. I experienced some of my favorite musicians that I didn't know, that I'd never heard of before. To me, that's just like, what's better than that? What is better than being 5 feet away from the artist, in a space where you're comfortable, in a space where they're comfortable, in a space where in between set breaks, you're grabbing a drink together, you're chatting. It just kind of breaks down that barrier and that wall, and it becomes what I think the whole point of performance to me is really, which is just human connection.
Yeah, and I mean, and especially in a world where those artists can go from 0 to 100 so quick. Yeah. So we take those moments of like the free ticket and the house party for granted. Like, or like if Fletcher's doing an email blast secret show at Rock Lidditz drop, like we need to go see that because 4 years later when they're on tour, it's going to be Post Malone and everyone's jam-packed tight because it's a stadium that we have to sell out and fill. And the experience that even seeing him 4 years ago was completely different, is not the same even today. And it's just it's just even going all the way then back to like the house performances and everything else. It is if you are... Yeah, I mean, if you're not experiencing music, I think in that way, it's something that you should definitely start looking into because
absolutely
that concert going experience and even just that show, it's just the energy that's there, and that's essentially. Obviously, most of the time we've got some seltzers floating around, but like the energy is the drug we need in order to just experience the euphoria of the evening, and it's just kind of there, and it's a vibe. And you're right, that being 5 feet away from someone, like there's no security or lines or merch or whatever. It's a raw, intimate moment that only a select few people will ever kind of really be able to understand. Right.
I agree. And I think a big thing is not to get in a different direction totally, but if we're not talking about how hard it is to make a living doing this right now, then we're not really touching on an important thing. And it's damn near impossible half the time. And I'm a small, independent, small time musician in the grand scheme of things. Yep. And I'm seeing left and right from these big name people that are selling out stadium tours, and they're saying we can't afford to do this.
Right.
The venues are taking a 30% cut of our merch.
Right.
We're going into massive debt to make this tour happen, even though we're selling out the whole tour.
Unless you're Taylor Swift.
But that's where I think that's where for me the house concert. And I think it's something that people really kind of caught back into in the kind of strange COVID era of when things kind of finally started opening up again. And also just being like, venues were shut down or, venues didn't want to pay or they couldn't pay.
Right.
What we as artists deserve. And I think that's something that I think that's a really big part of why we've seen a rise in this return to house concerts. It's because it gives us the artists autonomy. We can set the ticket prices. We can set the set times. You know, we're in control, and we don't have to rely on a venue that maybe doesn't have our best interest at heart. And I think we're lucky in Lancaster, where I think that there are a number of, you know, good venues that have our interest at heart. But I don't think that that's the case in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And I think that that is a big part of why I see a lot of musicians my age and older. Really, I know people that it's like that's all they're doing really is they just set up a house concert tour, and they're making more money doing that than they are opening up for someone on a sold out tour, hitting, you know, the Brooklyn Bowl or the Fillmore or the Met, you know, even. It's just like,
well, and I even remember, and this was like 11 years ago, for embarrassing reasons that we won't get into. I at one point, for a very brief moment in my life, performed at the Chameleon Club as just as a backup hype guy for my best friend who was a rapper at the time. And so it was, but like that whole experience was like my buddy had to pay $800 to buy 30 tickets or whatever for the show, and whatever we didn't sell, that was our show, and we just had to buy all of the tickets in order to get people. And so just even that aspect of, you know, not saying the venue didn't have our best interest at heart, but I mean, that business model probably is still the same today, maybe for independent artists, I'm assuming, who would want to perform at a venue that has a staff and a liquor license and doors and AC and everything that you would need to put on a show. Versus now we could, hey, if anyone has like a house, like I'll give you $300 and then boom, we go, and that's it.
Yeah. And I think it's gotten even more. It's about the artist making money, but I think it's got even more communal ramifications in terms of. I think we've really evolved. Not that the basement show isn't still a thing, and it should be. I think that's like the basement show. I've been to some amazing basement shows in my day.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I'm sure. Yeah.
But I think that it's like. I think people have really taken the whole DIY thing and just elevated it so much further than that. I mean, I think of, you know, Corey and the guys over at the Upside and what they've been able to accomplish in that small space, and just they've created something so cool over there. And I know they're kind of, you know, rearranging what that's going to kind of look like right now. But I did a show there, and I was just blown away by the experience. It was everything I wanted it to be. You know, it was a room, and smaller room, but it's like, you know, we got 60, 70 people in there. It was a vibe. Everyone was having a great time. I think people are really working on elevating what it means to do a DIY show, whether that's in an event space, whether that's in your home, like wherever that is. Mm-hmm. I think, frankly, oftentimes people are putting far more effort into the presentation of what that looks like than you're getting at a venue.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that I think that both places hold their purpose and should exist.
Yep.
But I think that it's a sign of community care, the way that people are putting more time and energy into doing this. Just this coming Saturday, the Quiet Rider is going to be playing a show at Ed Rocks, which is this outdoor amphitheater built into the backyard of our good friends Ed and Lois out in Bethlehem, PA.
Okay, that sounds awesome.
It's unbelievable. It's this rock garden that has 4 or 5 distinct levels with large patches of grass. People come and they, it's a potluck. They bring their own drinks. They sit out there. Ed and Lois don't charge us a thing to have us there.
Right.
And, it's $20 or $25 a head or whatever you feel like you want to give. And they give all of that they give all that money to the band.
Wow.
That goes directly to us. And, that is a really rare and beautiful thing, but it is a thing that lots of people do. There are people that are saying, this matters. This music matters. Giving people access to this matters. And we're willing to open up our homes and support artists that way, And so that's a really that Ed Rocks is I know it's a hike to get up to Bethlehem, but
a little bit.
It is such a beautiful venue, and it is it's just a really special place. It's a really special thing that they've created there.
It sounds great. So, and I mean, just so going from the way for artists and bands to make money is obviously the shows, but the other kind of, at least what people think is the way to make money as an artist, we're talking streaming, right? And thanks to DistroKid and other online tools, with just a click, you're right beside people like Drake and the Quiet Riders, and maybe even Mistletoe, Levi's version that I released a few years ago. Shameless plug, obviously, but just because I could. What insider move would you recommend to like new artists or anyone who want to kind of cut through the noise and get noticed on something like Spotify or another streaming service? Is there one that's like on the rise right now? Make good art.
I don't have anything else to say other than make good art. I think streaming it's a bullshit game that we have to play. There's really nothing else to say.
Is the streaming industry, I mean, because everything I see on my TikTok feed about streaming is that every major artist is botted, all of the streams are pretty much paid for, and anyone who's independent has no say except for their local and already built-in audience.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you this: put your stuff out there.
Yeah,
put it on the services. That's my, some people have. I know a lot of people that are not putting their art up on streaming services anymore. They're putting it on Bandcamp or they're putting it on their Patreon.
Yep.
They're putting it somewhere where someone is directly putting money in their pocket to get it. And I have a lot of respect for that method. And every day I grow closer to wanting to do that myself.
Yep.
It's tough. I understand why people use Spotify. I just finally, about six or 7 months ago, said, I can't buy into the system that is just hurting me, doing nothing for me. And, I went over to Tidal. It's not like they're giving me that much more money.
Okay.
But they are giving me more money.
Okay.
And I know that when I'm listening to artists, we're talking, the ratios on streaming are just insane.
Sure.
No one should be talking about streaming as a way to make money. Even, what Peter Frampton, what was the big one I remember a few years back that was like, look, Ooh Baby, I Love Your Way has like 1 billion streams, and I got a check for $5,000 or something like that for those billion streams.
Yeah, I think Snoop Dogg said the same thing. Yeah, it's like $3,000 per billion streams or something insane, like something stupid.
It's the equivalent of it's like if 20 to 30 people were to buy our record on Bandcamp for $10 to $15, that would be more equivalent than 1 million people streaming.
Yeah, well, and even to just the numbers game has been so, I feel, oversaturated with the virality of the internet to the point where if you don't have 100,000 plus views, let alone 1 million on anything, you're a loser. You should give up. No one's watching. But like, at the end of the day, like, I love, because I get these comments on my personal podcast all the time, let alone I'm sure musicians and artists do as well. Like, oh, look at this guy podcasting for 3 years straight and you're only getting 250 views on a full episode. And I'm like, excuse me? If 250 people bought a ticket to see my show, I'd be ecstatic.
Yeah.
I'd be over the moon. So yes, thank you for commenting and boosting the algorithm. Like, I
couldn't agree more.
Like, so the whole, if you've got one, you can get 10 and make it 100. So it just, yeah.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think, to that point, I've had people reach out to me over Instagram, from Australia, from Finland.
Hell yeah.
From Japan.
Yeah.
I don't know how my music got in front of their ears. Right. You know what I mean? I have no idea. So, but it meant enough to them that they reached out for me from a world away to tell me that this music meant something to them. You know what I'm saying? So,
and those moments, just one of those moments will change your life forever and put you on a path. Even back in, it was probably 2013, 2014 when I was still doing card tricks. Like I would get messages from my middle school swim coach, like saying like, "Hey man, I remember when you were just like wearing your sunglasses on the pool deck, like goofing off, having a good time. And I see what you're doing and I respect it. And it's like, that's it. We're obviously on the right path because someone notices. And as long as I say it every week, as long as I have one new subscriber every week, I'm going to keep doing it. You know what I mean? And that's, it's just, it's the never ending grind that only a select few people will ever be able to understand. And that's why we're here, you know?
Yeah. And I think my final point, what I would say to people is make good art, focus on making music that you care about and that speaks to you, because the rest just really doesn't, you don't have that much control over it.
Yeah.
And why, I guess I think that the TikTok era and this kind of instant viral era has created this thing that, people realize that if they can get their 15 seconds down, something big could happen for them. And I think that there are people that are really good at making real lasting, cool art. And they're also really good at playing the game and knowing how to do the 15-second thing that then makes you listen to their 15-minute EP.
And I've seen that destroy grown men and talented artists. Like friends of mine who we literally, I was in the studio with him making music. I said, please put me on this track. My fiance will love me. So I did some form of background vocals that we added 1,000% of auto-tune to. And so it's fine because I can't sing for a lick of whatever. But I've tried, I'll figure it out one day, but it's fine. And so, and then because those moments did not come, and because the TikToks only got the default 300 views and the downloads were only 23 on Spotify and 19 on Apple Music, and the ad dollars that we spent on Facebook to market it didn't really result in what we wanted to see with the project. He's done. He won't touch it anymore. It's a sore spot for it. Like it won't ever happen again, even though we would put him up there as probably one of the most talented artists that we've ever heard. And so it's just like this situation where the algorithm will consume you, but you have to really kind of be above it. And I know you keep mentioning make good art, and I didn't have this written down, and it keeps hitting the back of my head because I'm a huge proponent of it, but the music industry is not. How are we feeling about AI when it comes to your? Oh no!
No, not good. But also,
I know, of course. Well,
not good in the sense that it's pouring more vodka on an already flaming fire.
Okay.
In my opinion, as we think about the streaming industry.
Yeah.
I don't think people really give a shit about whether a computer can do that. I mean, obviously enough people do, but I guess there's a reason that no AI will ever create what it feels like to sit down and listen to Percy Sledge sing When a Man Loves a Woman. No AI art will ever be able to be Aretha Franklin doing Amazing Grace live in the Watch Church in 1972. Right. It's just we listen to this stuff because it's human.
Yeah.
And I think, don't get me wrong, I am fascinated by technology's advancement and ability to create things that are truly really close reflections of what we are able to do. Mm-hmm. But it feels like a parlor trick to me. It feels like something that I think that I feel like it's a parlor trick that has drastic implications.
Okay.
I do think that I think that it is incredibly dangerous to artists who are already struggling to try to break through this algorithm. If artificial intelligence is creating music that is literally designed to break through the algorithm, to take this part of this song and that song and all these things that are making things popular. But again, as I said, I just think that streaming is a dumpster fire to begin with. I've had 5,000 monthly listeners for forever, and then it'll drop down to 150, and then it'll go up to 450, and then it drops to 85. It
doesn't matter. It's not real.
It's McConaughey and Wall Street. It's a Fugazi. It's a Fugazi.
I think the latest headline is it Timberland with the AI, but apparently he's pulling it all from like the TikTok music database or something. Yeah. So it's essentially stolen, allegedly. Yeah, no, I mean, so it's just it doesn't compute well with me, and I don't think I'm on the fence. I'm both on the fence that I think we will not be able to recognize what is real on the internet within the next like 6 months to 5 years of time. Oh, yeah.
I think we're already almost there.
Based on V3O and Google and everything they're doing. I mean, we were looking at AI generated videos from like 6 months ago that were like fooling us just to whatever. And it's certainly a slippery slope, which is why organic human content is just going to continue, I think, to thrive. And I think my future projection would be that eventually somewhere along the line, Facebook, Google, Apple, whoever is whatever makes themselves the committee, everything's going to have a stamp, and it's either going to be human verified or it's AI generated, and it'll be blatantly obvious every time because now it is not. And I think that's becoming an issue, especially when we live in a world where we won't get into it, but when we've got Twitter fingers in the White House, it's like we've got to, if the president doesn't know what's real and fake versus AI versus artists versus musicians versus people naturally, etc. End of conversation. That's just where we're at. And so,
no, very much so. And I mean, I think that the technology will continue to advance because it always does. That's the name of the game in every format and in every field. But again, like we were just talking about, records to tapes to CDs to streaming to records.
Right.
People, the vinyl, I think that the last 10 or 15 years have shown us that this vinyl boom is more than, I think it has a lot more to do, a lot less to do with fidelity and a lot more to do with people reconnecting with the art itself. Because you know what? Most people that buy vinyl are listening to it on the worst system imaginable. They're listening to it on one of those
little $30 Walmart turntable with a built-in speaker.
But you know what?
100%.
But I don't have any negative feelings about that.
Sure.
Because that's my point is that they're connecting with the thing that their grandparents connected with, that their parents connected with, which is the way that you experience it. And I think that I think to that point, I think that we're going to see, I think we are already seeing the same trends in music. I think that we're seeing more people, yes, because it's more financially viable, but we're seeing more people really push live performance and just live experiences with their music is what people want that. Yeah. And it's just more. It's always a push and a pull, and I think that humans are generally smart enough, or at least I don't even know if it has to do with smartness as much as it has to do with just what you feel. Yeah. I think we feel too much to allow technology to be the one dictating that for us. I know that in many ways we do already, but I just think that as well, the AI thing trends this way. I think that the desire for human connection and realness continues to trend this way too. I have to believe that.
How easy is it to, if I'm a musician, someone like you in your shoes, how easy is it for me to get my new project on vinyl? Is that it seems like a difficult process. Is there a service out there? What's the move?
So there's a number of different distributors and places from, larger to more mom and pop. I would say that like 5 or 6 years ago, it was a lot easier.
It's gotten harder.
COVID's made everything harder in that regard. But also just that more people are starting to realize the the kind of refound value in the physical thing. So whereas 5 or 6 years ago, people weren't really pressing vinyl that much on newer projects, unless you had like a big budget. I think that now that it's kind of coming back around and people are realizing, oh, this wasn't just a fad. It seems like people actually really want to connect with music in this way again. You're having a lot more people that are doing it. So it's just that your wait times, your turnaround time on getting that vinyl, you know, maybe it used to be you could submit it and in 2 or 3 months you could get your vinyl back to you. Now it might be, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. And I've heard, horror stories and positive experiences about a number of different places. I have not personally yet pressed anything to vinyl.
Okay.
I'll probably will be doing that with this New Orleans record, because I think that it's one of the most cohesive pieces of art I've created in a while, just in every step of the process. And I think that that's something that I really would like to, we really focused on capturing performances and live takes and everyone together. There's very minimal overdubbing on this record. And it feels like something that really speaks to me in terms of wanting to present it in that format. So I'll get back to you after I do that.
No, definitely keep us posted. Let us know. When you walk into the studio, are you armed with like a full lyric sheet and a melody humming in your head, or are you just like is it just a feeling you need to chase? Like, break down your songwriting blueprint, like from the first spark to the finished demo, and what makes your process uniquely yours versus anyone else.
It's always, it's like a recipe. It's like we're all using the same ingredients, but we use different proportions of it, is kind of how I would say. So for me, it's always either a melody or chords that come to me first. Every now and again lately, it's been lyrics. I've been having some pretty crazy dreams that have been really influencing a lot of writing.
They fuel you a lot, your dreams? Your music?
And even to the perspective of literally garnering lyrics from my dreams, like waking up with this like one phrase in my head, and then sometimes when I'm that tired, I just write that lyric down or that line down, and then if something else comes, I just kind of keep typing away at it, trying to come up with something. But I think it's Leonard Bernstein says that thing that's like, that's where all good music comes from, that place that's between asleep and awake, like right when you're falling asleep and the idea comes to you. I've been forcing myself to get out of bed every time when that happens. My wife literally knows at this point. She's like, it'll be 2 a.m. and she can hear me rustling out of bed, and she's like, you go into the music room to scratch something down. But yeah, normally it's the music comes to me first most of the time. And then the lyrics come after that. And in terms of as it applies to the studio, it really is dependent on the group I'm playing with and what I'm trying to accomplish. So for the New Orleans thing, it was all like, I had the songs written and pretty fleshed out in terms of arrangement. We go in, we'd run them 2 or 3 times. We'd do 2 or 3 takes of them. And then sit back. If you don't get something, if you're going live cuts and you don't get something in the first 3 or 4 takes,
it's not working.
It's probably just not the day to get it. That's the method mentality that I've reached, is that I want this stuff to, like, this is all that will be left of me one day. And I want it to be, it's sacred.
It's your legacy.
It's really sacred to me. The recording process is sacred, and live shows are fun. You get to experiment, you get to do different stuff, and people really remember how it felt. They don't necessarily remember how it sounded at the end of the day. I think afterwards they can be like, oh, that sounded great. And sometimes I listen back to it that night, I'm like, that show sounded, I don't know if that sounded great. But it's like, does it matter if people felt what you wanted them to feel or what they needed to feel? But the record is really sacred, and that's the thing that like is unchanging and unrelenting. And I feel like, my mentor Nigel has like really enforced that, or not enforced that, but really helped me like see that and believe that just like the stuff that's good is really worth taking your time and getting it exactly the way you hear it in your head. don't settle or compromise for less than that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just I've seen so many examples of that. I mean, even across, even the big wigs. I just this one clip that always stands out in my mind is like have you ever seen Justin Bieber conducting the orchestra, like just to make the perfect sound? And it's Justin Bieber, and he is just controlling each and every section of this orchestra the way he wants the sound to be 100% meticulously played. And it's like, it's what, at the end of the day, people just hear a 3-minute song, but if you knew how many hours went into just this one little piece, 10-second beginning part of it, because we really couldn't figure it out, and then we got it. Like that's what really made the song, but people will connect to it in whichever way that they kind of feels best for them, right? So it's
absolutely, absolutely. And I feel like so it's like working in New Orleans. Normally, it's like I have a sketch, I take it to the band, we cut it, we arrange it a little bit together, we cut it. With the Quiet Riders, we haven't been back in the studio in a while, but we pretty much have enough new material at this point to warrant going back into the studio. And that's kind of our plan for later this year or early next year, is to get in the studio and cut a lot of these songs. So that will be that process. The Philly thing has been very interesting, where AJ Sugar, who is my one of my dearest friends in the world, an amazing collaborator, bassist, guitarist, amazing songwriter, amazing singer. My friend Ian Murphy, who goes by Brushstroke, again, bass, guitar, drums, amazing singer-songwriter. Keon Williams on drums, one of the most musical people I've ever met in my entire life. Austin Marlowe, another drummer that I've gotten the chance to work with a lot. Unbelievable. For the drums for the band Snack Time from Philadelphia. With those guys, it's sometimes I call a session because I'm like, hey, I have these songs and I'd like us to try to cut them. Yeah. But I've gotten the privilege over the last few years to do a lot of just experimenting with that. They're all amazing engineers in their own right. And so oftentimes we have access to to somebody's friend's studio for the day for free, and it's just like go in and just get as much done as you can. Right. And then maybe we don't figure out for another few months that thing we did, we're like, someone will revisit it and go, oh, actually there was really something there to that. We should do that. Right. But even sometimes I'll just be like, hey, look, I'm calling a session today. I'll pay for the time. I've got one sketch. Otherwise I want us to just come up with some stuff. Yeah. And they have been probably my most collaborative creators in that sense, in the sense of just calling studio time and going in there and cutting some ideas and seeing what we come up with. And sometimes we end up, recutting it completely, but other times we're like, okay, hey, half of this or even 70 or 80% of this is great. And we're just going to recut some other stuff that works with it. Yep. But yeah, I mean, especially AJ has been such a monumental collaborator, and has written a number of the things with me that I've put out on my last few records, and of the stuff that's going to come out. I'm really proud of this next few batches of songs from the Philly guys. We really kind of stretched our legs a little bit on some of these and really dove deep in some cool ways. I think there's a lot of different sonic stuff there, but I think it all really works together.
What's your favorite song of yours
that I've released? Mm-hmm. Probably
my most simplest question has stumped you for yeah.
I'd say that my favorite song that I've released is probably either my song Walgreens. No, I think I'd say it's Walgreens.
Distance is a pointed knife. Cut it close, cut the ties. keeps it right on time. I know I'll make it 'cause I tried. Thought you were all alone, shackled to
After the drugstore?
After the drugstore.
Love it. Okay. I have been listening to your music all last week, but I don't know if I came across that one just yet. So I will.
That's on my latest EP, which is Moving Towards the Light.
Okay.
But I'd say that's probably my favorite song. I think that's one that it feels like there's something. I don't know. I just feel like of all the things that I've put out, that one felt like we really captured something special. And I listened back to it, and I don't hear anything I don't like. I don't really listen back to things that frequently after I release them.
Yeah.
Right. I've lived with it for long enough. It's time for other people to live with it if they choose to. But that's one that that I don't get tired of hearing. I'm very, very proud. And it's the first, strangely enough, as the four guys I mentioned, I mentioned more, but Keon Williams, AJ Sugart, and Ian Murphy have really been my three deepest collaborators since I've been in Philadelphia. That is the band for all of my solo stuff. And with the exception of an instrumental interlude that was on my first record, that's the only song that's released that features the four of us.
Okay.
And so I think that there's just something that's special to me about that too, that's in many ways, the interlude is, it's the four of us together, but it was just kind of a little afterthought, like that's the first documented recorded piece of music that the four of us play on together. That will always be very special to me.
Why not Rite Aid or CVS? I'm joking.
No, I can tell you because AJ has a propensity to name our demos something absolutely random.
Okay.
And he had to go pick up a prescription at
Walgreens. That's it. And that's it.
And we were down in New Orleans together, and all of our friends had gone out to kind of, party and run around town or do stuff. And it was a Friday night, and we were both just like, I don't really feel like doing any of that. And we sat in the house, and there's a very, very old piano in this house that we were staying in that is not at 440 tuning. It's probably at about 408 or 410. I forget exactly what it is.
Needs work. Yeah, it needs work.
AJ figured it out, but we tuned the guitar down to the piano so that we could write it together, and I could play piano and he could do that. And then we were like, this has a nice little thing here. Right. We liked that it was felt a little lower, a little bit more relaxed frequency wise. And so we decided to just cut everything that way. We just tuned the basses down, tuned the guitars down. I'm trying to remember how we did the vocal thing was, I think we actually had to tune I forget if we had to tune the track up and then we sang it and then we tuned everything down, or I think we just got all the instruments right, tuned those down, and then we sang the vocals to that track.
I'll tell you what, you're the second time in the last couple of weeks that I've heard a musician artist talk about frequency. Out of all the people on the planet, Raven Simone and I think Freddie Jonas, the little brother, Jonas brother, were talking about frequency and how like at one point we switched from like 4,000 megahertz to like 4,400. I know those numbers are probably wrong, but we switched because someone discovered that the higher one was a little more irritating, but we were more susceptible to the music. So then everything became.
I'm pretty sure it was the discovered that we were more susceptible.
Why does it always go back to that? Why does it always go back to that? We can't. It's 2025.
I know.
Kanye went. Why does it need to always go back to them? Of course. It was
you're right. You're right. Essentially, it's like for much of human existence, I think it's like 420, 430, is what we were going off of. And then sometime in the 30s, people discovered that the higher pitch frequency put your body into a more not relaxed state, rather, but it kept you more engaged and pay attention. And then that's when we made the we made the switch, and now everything is
Now Miley
things.
Cyrus is a thing. Thanks
Yeah.
a lot. Thanks to the we now have Miley Cyrus. Yeah, man. It's so okay. Last question, then we'll get out of here. This your platform. This is your pitch. Who once back in Lancaster? Who's someone from the music scene here that you've just been itching to work with? Drop everything. Record with them tomorrow. Name drop. Dream collab. Let's go. Who do we have in mind?
One person that I would really, really like to collaborate with was one of my first musical mentors in town. His name is Chris Klaus House, of the famous House Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the most amazing multi-instrumentalists, fiddle, guitar, great singer-songwriter, unbelievable voice. Really formulated a lot of what I know, and he doesn't necessarily, music is not necessarily his primary living at the moment.
Right.
Although actually it is, because I don't know if I've ever met anybody that lives it and breathes it quite like him. So I would love to reignite our work together and make some work with him.
Let's make it happen.
I'd love to also do something with my friend Andrew Pauls. That's definitely a plan, is to write some music with him.
100%. Let's make all of that. We're gonna make all that happen. So we'll definitely, we're gonna clip that and tag them to nonstop. So we'll make all that happen as soon as you get here. Man, so tell this is your time to shine, plug whatever we've got coming up, music, shows, albums, what's coming next, what can people do, follow you everywhere, stream you everywhere, what do you got?
Well, first and foremost, the easiest thing is you can find me pretty much everywhere at Tuck Ryan Music.
Yes, sir.
That would be the tag on Facebook, that would be the tag on Instagram. It's Tuck Ryan Music. I'm on all streaming platforms. Everywhere that you consume your media, you can find it there. Next big show that I'm really excited about, Friday, the 20th of June, we've got West Reading Motor Club with the Quiet Riders from 8:30 to 11:30. It's free. There's great food. There's great drinks. We've got the tunes taken care of. Just come on out. And then Saturday, the 21st, we have the Quiet Riders at Ed Rocks, which is, again, in Bethlehem, PA. Really special thing. It's a bit of a hike, but load up a car with your friends and come on out and check it out. And outside of that, there'll be a lot more announcements coming in September.
Awesome. Yeah, and we've got some nuggets that you dropped throughout this episode too. So even more things to come. Yeah. Tuck Ryan, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for talking with me, learning about you and the music industry in a whole from your perspective. Has been a true gift. I appreciate your time. And I can't wait. This will certainly not be the last time we speak. Episode 1, we're definitely going to have you back on once we have some new music, new projects, new things. Once you're back here in Lancaster, we'll get you hopefully in person in studio somewhere, and we'll see a show and we'll get it done soon, man. So thank you. And
thank you so much, Levi. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, for everyone listening, go follow him, stream the music, the Quiet Riders, Tuck Ryan Music. You know where to find it. And of course, if you're in Lancaster and you need anything from a guitar to pedals to strings to a microphone, you know where to find us. It's Tone Tailors, tonetailors.com. You can shop online for all of your needs. Check out an article there, and of course, all other episodes of this podcast once they are inevitably out. Thank you guys so much for listening. Tuck Ryan, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for coming.